Hi everyone, Pastor Dwayne here at Lakeview Gospel Center, and this is Wednesday, and I am honored to bring you Wednesday's Word. I trust this is an encouragement to you. If it is, please let me know, because why do it if it's not meeting you where you are? I trust it is encouraging, and it challenges your heart. And when this is true, that you would love Jesus that much more. I want to draw your attention today to John chapter 4. And in John's Gospel, chapter 4, we read the amazing account where there was a woman at the well, a Samaritan woman, and she was a woman of ill repute. She didn't have a great past, and Jesus came to her and asked her for a drink. And that is when we get the famous statement of Jesus, if you knew who you were talking to, you would be asking me for a drink. Jesus being the water of life. And it was a transformational moment in this woman's life. But traditionally, it was something that as a Jewish man, he would be scolded for, or he would have, if he was observant to the tradition and the laws, he would not have done it in the first place. So when we get to verse number 27, we read the twist in the story, and by this point, the disciples, Jesus' followers, and this is where it gets interesting, Jesus' followers come to him, and they are amazed that he was talking to this woman. Not only was she a woman, because in the biblical time of Jewish history, to be a Gentile and to be a woman was something that men, thank God they weren't, Jewish men. So here was Jesus talking to a woman, also compounding that she was a Samaritan woman, which the Jewish people and Samaritans did not have a great relationship, and also she had a bad reputation. She wasn't the most ideal person to be talking to from a human standpoint. And Jesus speaks life into her, and the disciples come and see what's happening, and they are amazed that Jesus is talking to this woman. And this is where it gets really fun. They ask the question, what do you seek? What are you looking for, Jesus? And why are you speaking to her? So the woman left her water pot. Now that's an amazing truth. She left her comfort, she left all that she's known, and she was so taken back by this man Jesus that she went into the city and said to the men, "Come and see the man who told me all the things I have done." She said, "This is not the Christ, is it? This must be the Messiah." Now, she brought transformation to her city. But the disciples were stuck on tradition rather than transformation. And that's something that we need to be very careful about, is that we don't stifle God's transforming power by what we perceive as being tradition. So many people are so driven by everything they have already known, or their preferences, or things that they're comfortable with. But the moment we go past that, that's when we run into some challenges. So Jesus, it says, meanwhile the disciples were urging him, saying, "Rabbi, eat. Have something to eat. Come and eat with us." Now, if there's one thing that you notice in our culture, in our society, is that food is a big deal. Don't judge me, I'm not the only one. There's Food Network, there's all kinds of food shows on your Facebook feed. I can promise you, if you keep scrolling through the videos long enough, you'll find somebody cooking, and usually someone with a southern accent. But you know, we are enamored by food, our culture is driven by food, and we go by our preferences, and that's a first world problem. We go by what we're in the mood for, rather than what will sustain our body, and we would not die today of hunger. We go by, no, I'm not in the mood for steak today, I'd rather chicken. Or, no, I'm not in the mood for A&W burger, I want a McDonald's burger. You know, we are specific in what we want. This past weekend was my wife's and my anniversary. Thank you. I appreciate that well wish. But we went away the first time in a long time without our girls. They stayed home with Auntie. And when we got to our destination for dinner that night, of course, the question came, where do you want to eat? And I hate that question because I like everything. And we ended up going to a place that I absolutely love, a Brazilian steakhouse. And they serve an all that you would care to eat meat buffet. And man, that was amazing. It was delicious. And even post-COVID, I kind of like it better than I did before. But it was so good. But the next words that Jesus said is a challenge to me, and I trust we share in the same challenge. He says to the disciples, I have food to eat that you don't even know about. So the disciples were saying to one another, no one bought him anything to eat. Like, what is he eating? Like a Big Mac or pizza? Or what is he having? Like a falafel sandwich? He must have eaten before we got here. And in verse 34 it says, Jesus said to them, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish his work. Knowing how important food is for survival, but also the social aspect of it, the enjoyment of sitting down to a nice meal. The same was true in Jesus' day. He went to weddings, he went to celebrations. He liked food. He got accused of being a glutton, even though he wasn't. But he said something very prominent, and it came on the heels of doing ministry, being what he was sent to earth to do in bringing transformation to the sinful woman at the well. His disciples completely missed it, focused on tradition rather than the transformation that was taking place, urged them to eat, and it was a discipling moment for Jesus to his disciples, and it is to me and to you today. He said, I get as much enjoyment as having a nice barbecued steak with a loaded baked potato and corn loaded in butter. I don't know if Jesus would have had that. Or some roasted fish on the fire, whatever the case may be. I get more enjoyment doing the will of God, doing the will of the Father, than I do anything of this earth. It is our desire as disciples of Jesus to be like, that's right, Jesus. So I have to ask myself the question, is that a driving force in my life today? To do the will of God is as enjoyable to me as eating, as necessary to my survival as having daily substances and nourishment as it is to do the will of God. It is like a celebration when I do the will of the Father. When was the last time you asked God, what is your will for my life? What can I do today? Set me up today to do your will. Put someone in my life, across my path, to pour into, to speak life into. Like this woman who came to the well and just happened to meet Jesus. Jesus was present, ready, willing, and able to help. And as his followers, let's not miss the opportunity as thinking is just a coincidence or just another day. But let that same attitude be in us as it was in Christ. That's very scriptural. That as much as we love to sit and have a good meal, and as much as it is necessary for our survival, so is doing the will of God. In fact, Jesus said, if you love me, you will do what I say. Oh, that's amazing. Everything about Jesus' life was on purpose, even though it may not have been great. So to do the will of the Father who sent him was not always something to be enjoyed from a human standpoint. Even when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane facing death, facing what he knew was coming. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 2 says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. He was joyful. In his flesh, in his humanness, in his humanity, he prayed, could you please let this cup pass from me? But he said, but not my will, but yours be done. Why? Because to do the will of the Father, it was like eating a good steak for him. It was food that people couldn't see. I pray that's the reality of my life and your life today. Would you? I challenge you, as I challenge myself, God, let your will be done in my life today. May I fall in love with the passion to do his will. Don't miss the opportunity, and don't stifle it based upon our traditions, based upon your preferences. But let us seek to see transformation, because that is food that people don't see, because that is a passion of our heart, to be like Jesus in every way. This is Wednesday. I will see you tonight if you live in the Lakeland region at 7 o'clock for our weekly prayer meeting. You don't want to miss that. And stay tuned for all the information this coming Sunday. We're launching into 2 services on Sunday morning, 9:30 and 11:30. Go to lakeviewgospel.ca for all the information and to reserve your space today. God bless you and have a great one.